Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Monday, May the 1st. Yes, I'm filming it a day late. It is Monday, May the 1st, and it is clearly evening where I am. I'm filming this late on Monday. That's a story. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yes, I'm coming to you Monday, a day late. I was going to say $1 short. I don't know that I'm $1 short. But anyway, a day later than I was expecting. We are filming at night out here in the sunroom. The weekend has been glorious. Glorious, glorious, glorious weather. And the forecast for this week is fabulous. The temperatures are all warm and sunny and lovely. You know, so temperatures in, sorry, I'm doing math again and I should never do, so temperatures sort of like in the 70s all week, if not potentially reaching into the 80s on certain days. So temperatures that feel like, you know, summer. I don't want to say it too loud. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want it to, you know, create the 4-letter S word that's weather related in my area, because that is a possibility where I am. But yeah, I love the weather. It means stitching in the sunroom is full on. It's fantastic. Anyway, this is a channel about cross stitching and crocheting. It has that new addition. Yeah, I've become multi-craftual. It's all Cheryl's fault, the Happy Handcraft Studio, in case you want to know. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And as always, if you are a returning viewer, always love to see those of you who come back and leave the comments so we can have a little bit of a conversation about my crafting journey, whether it is cross-stitching or crocheting or whatever other troubles I'm getting into. And we might be talking about that a little bit later in this video. So with that, let's talk about some of the comments from last week. So as always, there were a few people who were commenting that they may have tried a digital app to use with their cross-stitch patterns and have gone back to paper. That's just where they feel most comfortable. And you know my words are, do what works best for you. We are all individuals. We all have individual styles, 27 things. This is your craft. This is supposed to be fun, enjoyable, all those good things. The last thing you need to do is bring something into your crafting world that makes it worse. So if paper's best for you, go paper. Go paper. You know, because even with digital patterns that you can get on Etsy, congratulations, you can download them and print them out. So find, as always, my big thing is find what works best for you and do that. Doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. You have to find what works best for you. And speaking of what works best for you, Amy left a comment about the Teagouvener, because we were talking about Teagouvener patterns and those really problematic floss cards. She left a comment that she photocopied those cards at the beginning of her project so that she could combine them. So she numbered her cards, like, so for mine it would be 1, 2, and 3, and then she photocopied them so it would help her find the symbol on the card faster and sort of help to not have to plow through all 3 sets of cards every time I was looking for a symbol. So that's what she found to be helpful. So I, just in case not everybody reads through all the comments, oh gosh, I forgot who it was and I don't have the piece of paper next to me. Whoever it was that was working on who's just recently got the Paris pattern, you might find that helpful, because it is a pain in the neck going through all the floss cards, diligently searching for the incredibly accurate symbol to make sure you've got the right one. Because on Teagouverners, those are challenging in and of themselves. Jay, thank you for your comment on last week's video. I still owe you responses on some comments that you left on some older videos. I'm catching up. We'll talk about why last week's was delayed in just a second. But thank you for your comment on how much you enjoyed the Lacy Cottage. Thank you for putting it in there, because I have to admit, I was really worried that I am the only one who actually really enjoys the Lacy Cottage by Rosewood Manor. So thank you for jumping into the canoe with me. It's okay if there's only a few of us. I just thought it was a little unusual that there was only, you know, me. But okay, Jay's in there with me. We're all good to go. And Lisa left a comment about she's just finishing up a Stacey Nash drum, and good words from her, because she said these are my words, they're deceptive. So she says there's a lot more stitching and a lot more counting in those things than you would expect. So I took that as very good words of warning. If you look at that thing and go, I'm going to be able to whip that Stacey Nash drum out in like lickety split, think again. So Lisa, thank you for that. So I won't pencil that into my plans as if I can get it accomplished, like, you know, uber quickly. And thank you to those of you who have commented that apparently the ads are back in full force. And somebody commented that the ads were coming back every 5 minutes, which is annoying as all get out. I'm right there with you. So I have done some research. I am doing a couple of things on the back end to try to limit that. So it's probably going to take me a little bit to make sure everything's working. But yeah, when you see them, throw the comment on there just so I know how it's coming across to all of you. When I watch it, because I'm logged into YouTube while I'm watching, I don't know if what I see is different from what other people see. You know, I'm logged into YouTube. I'm the channel owner. So I don't know how that works in YouTube land. But I did find it interesting that I was watching somebody else and they made the comment, said they're doing their best as well, but don't forget YouTube is the grandmaster of everything. And so, like I say, I've found a few things. I've watched a few YouTube videos on how to limit ads. So I'm going to be working on that on the back end. We'll see how I do. And then we'll see how it goes. But I am with you. Ads every 5 minutes is unbelievably not helpful. So working on that, we'll journey through this together, I think. Just looking at my hair going, wow, has it been that flippy up at the back this whole time? Anyway, never mind that. It's better on this side than it is on this side. Interesting. All right. And then a couple of things. One of the comments was... someone had commented that they were watching the video going, ooh, what is going on with her hair? And was really thinking that to herself, just as I said, I'll talk about the hair at the end and blah, blah, blah. So she scooted all the way to the end and found out what was going on with the hair and then came back and watched the video. She just needed the hair question answered. So I enjoyed that. And then I have to say, this is my favorite comment, and it's from Angie, where she said, can we blame Cheryl for the hair? Which I think is awesome. I'm blaming Cheryl for a lot already, so I don't really think we can blame Cheryl for what's happening with my hair, but I did laugh that you kind of went, it's really only gone this level of curly since I started crocheting. So it might slightly be Cheryl's fault, but I appreciated the sentiment. Cheryl's gonna laugh when she watches this. But I'm only blaming Cheryl right now for the crocheting problem. I'm not blaming Cheryl for what's happening with my hair. But thank you for the comment. That was awesome. I laughed all week since I saw that. All right. Okay. So let's talk about why last week's video is late. So last week's video was late because on Sunday night, as everything was being worked on from a computer perspective for the video, I discovered I had a plumbing issue and a water problem. and water to be cleaned up and things anyway. So that that made things a little bit interesting, and not surprisingly, it was more important that I look after the water issues than get the video up on time. So it was a plumbing issue. Everything has been rectified. Everything's, I was a little paranoid even after the plumber came out and did his thing where I was like, I need to monitor this. It's all fine. We're all fine and good. Everything's cleaned up. It's fine. It just, anyway, it was an unexpected problem to discover. Anywho. So that was that week. This week I'm filming on Monday for the pure and simple reason that I really wanted to get some stitching in yesterday, and doing the video would have taken away from stitching time yesterday. Now, don't kid yourself, doing the video today, tonight, means it's taking away from stitching time, but I felt like I had not been as productive in April as I wanted to be. So I delayed the video, recording the video, until today. So wait till we go through it. So, because the topic for this week is April in review, and we'll be talking about that later. So with that, let's get into my stitching for this week. So not as much as I would have liked, because I spent some time dealing with the plumbing stuff, and to be perfectly honest, while that was going on, I found it easier to wait for it crochet than it was for me to do stitching, so I went with the craft that was a little bit easier. Cheryl, anywho, we'll be talking about her a little bit later. But so because I'm filming this on Monday, it does mean that I got my April 30th stitching in, my Sunday stitching on my ABC. So my ABC piece has been Spring ABCs by Little House Needleworks, and I'm holding it up because that's technically what the called for is supposed to look like. I, of course, am using my own colorway for Spring ABCs. The information about what colors I used for my Spring ABCs are in the notes section down below. I stitched mine on a 28 count Star Sapphire Jobelan, which is a fabric by Witchelt. And you will be happy to know that it is complete. So here's my usual problem. Let's see if I can get all of this in there. Yes, there it is. Because that'll be the screen capture. But yes, so I got all of my little Spring ABCs by Little House Needleworks complete yesterday night. So the evening on the 23rd, I did actually get some stuff done on there before I discovered the water problem. Anyway, so what did I get accomplished? I don't do well on this side. So I got the quilt, the grass, the bars, all of this was completed. So that's what I finished up. I have not yet put my initials in, so I do have that as a note to self saying I need to figure out where. I think I am just going to put them down here, probably in green. But my Spring ABCs is now complete. I'm very happy with this. I did spend some time this week. While I've been talking about it for weeks, you know, I didn't actually do anything about it because in my head I'd already picked out the pattern. So I went and got the pattern out of the stash for my next ABC project to work on Sundays. Sorry. And I pulled out the floss for it. I have yet to pick fabric out for it, so I need to do that this week as well. So that's one of the things I need to do this week. Then I worked on my April monthly Quaker by From the Heart Needleart. Sorry, I just need to get my phone out because this is the one where as usual. I need to go, that's what it's supposed to look like, because I have this chart electronically. Okay, we need to talk about this. So I didn't get it done. I didn't get it done, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with. So I did start the pink, which I am using Weeks Dye Works Peony as opposed to the called for Classic Colorworks Goldfish, because this is just a little too orange for me. And so I started over here working on this motif and did about 2/3 of it and went, I don't know how we're feeling about that. And then I waited so I could look at it in, because usually I'm stitching at night, looked at it more in daylight, and I went, oh no, it's okay. So then I kept going and did more. And I'm back to, I'm not 100% sure about this color. Now, is this a lot of fussing about for something really small that is never going to be hanging on my wall all year and 27 other things? You bet. But it's me. If there's anybody who can, you know, overthink things, I've got great skills in that area. So I'm not 100%. So I have decided I'm going to put this away for a bit. I want to start May off cleanly. So I'm going to put this away for a bit. I'm going to start working on May, getting it done. And we'll come back to April. My goal is to have all 12 of these monthly ones completed over the course of the year. I was doing really well about getting them done in the month they were called for, but my Lent plan screwed me up. So I'm not horribly overwrought that this is not done, because it is going to give me a little bit more time to debate whether this is the right color for this one or not, or if it needs to be changed. And if it needs to be changed, I'm okay with that. I would rather, I say that now, I would rather unpick all the stitches I've done in this. I'm okay with the 2 colors of green, the 524 and the St. Bernard. I'm okay with those. But for some reason, and the weird thing is, I don't like how it looks at night. At night, I think it is too bright and that it should be paler. When it is really sunny, like so on the weekend and yesterday, I looked at it and I went, no, you're okay. But as soon as it got dark again, I was like, I don't know about that. So I'm not 100% convinced that this is the right color. So I'm okay putting it away for a bit. It will need to come back out and it will need to get completed. But I've decided I'm going to start May cleanly with my Mania plans without pulling an April holdover into it. I've got 7 months left this year to try to work in the remaining. I think I've probably got about, well, right now, assuming I keep this color, I've probably got 1,000 stitches left to go on this. If I rip out the pink that I've probably got about 1,500. So it's not an egregious number, you know, that I can't get done, but I was just like, let's just put it on pause so we can think about it. Then, of course, with the plumbing issues on the 25th, we're just finishing getting fixed and all that kind of stuff, and I was feeling tired that day, so I didn't work on my 25th piece, but I did pull it out on Saturday. And I'm really glad I pulled it out on Saturday, because wow, that was a really, really big lesson. So what I'm working on the 25th of every month is my drawn thread, Little Bits of Christmas. And my goal is to do something like this, only I'm doing it 4 rows tall by 3 across to fit on my sleigh that I got. And my goal is, by working it on the 25th of every month, that while I'm doing that, I need to get 1 block completed per month, which sounds like a really great plan. I'm really glad I pulled it out on Saturday. So I did get my block completed. So I got my wreath done at the top. For those of you who are coming to the May Stitching at the Library, which we'll talk about later when we get to announcements, I will be bringing this so everybody can weigh in as to whether or not I need to backstitch the birds. They're not too bad, but they might need a little bit of a backstitch around them just to highlight them. So I got the wreath done. So that's great. Next month we're in really complicated territory because now I have to, all the spaces that are left are the ones that I'm debating about what I'm putting in there. So I'm having a little bit of a, we need to really hurry up and make some decisions about that before we hit the 25th of May. But I'm really glad I worked on it on Saturday because it was a lot of stitching. It was a lot of stitching compared to what I put into all of the other ones. So all of these 4 blocks that I had completed, which don't get me wrong, they were words. You know, they stitched up quite quickly and I got them done and I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. And I was looking at this going, okay, well, there's more stitches in here than there are in the other ones. But, you know, there's very limited back stitching. It took me a lot longer. So, because, you know, planner. I did go back and look. So I put in 442 stitches on that on Saturday to get that block completed, compared to 232, 301, and 269 in the previous 3 months of this year. So it was a lot bigger, took a lot more time, you know, because then of course the other thing, because so the one of the charts that it is in here is the one to do this combination of things, right? So if you wanted to do those 9 squares exactly like that is, there is a chart in the pattern that has it set up like that. Because I am not doing that format, then you get into the interesting thing, because I started in the center, because I need it to be centered on this piece of fabric, because that's me. And so I got all this done, you know, so centering the Mary wasn't too terribly bad, but then I had to make sure that the wreath was centered correctly. Now it is good because in the chart for each of the squares, it does show them individually and show where the center it is. So I could, you know, the center of this square was just at the edge of the E, so come up, but I really started at the bottom and worked my way around. But there you go. So there we go. I've got 5. Yes, that's correct. I was going to say 5. We're in May. Wait, no, May 25th has not come yet. I'm okay. We have 5 of the 7 squares done. Because really, I have a goal. I'm not the best at finishing, but I really am hoping to have this fully finished before Christmas of this year. Not just stitched, but actually turned into a fully finished item for display in my home at Christmas this year. It's good to have goals. All right, there is my stitching that I've done over the course of this past week. Okay, let's talk about Stashquisitions. So last week I had made a comment that I had bought a couple of things for my stash, which I graciously forgot to bring out to show, but I have them this week. I was watching somebody, and I'm terrible about writing who it is when I'm watching it. I was watching somebody who was talking about Cosmo Floss, which I do have some Cosmo Floss in my stash. I have not yet used it. But they were talking about the coverage of white. So how white covers has always been a fairly decently well covered topic in the land of stitching. A lot of people don't feel that DMC gives really good coverage with white or black. Now, when I learned to stitch, in my family, the answer was we did not use DMC white. My family was we used DMC anchor. That's not a thing. We did not use DMC white. We used anchor white, particularly because even with me growing up, there were two different whites. There was anchor 1 and anchor 2. And it's the same as the difference between DMC white and DMC B5200. So it's interesting to hear someone talk about that they felt that they had heard that Cosmo white floss gives better coverage. And I went, well, I was out running some errands. There is a store close to where my parents live that carries Cosmo. So I just ran in there. And similar to DMC, they've got two different whites. They have 5200, ha 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 ha, I thought that was hilarious. And they have 001, or no, 100. So theoretically, it's going to be hard to tell on camera. The same thing as the 2500. Did I say 5200? I'm thinking B5200 like in DMC. It's 2500. I'm just going to show you this, so because apparently I'm not good with the numbers. Can't read them in reverse on camera. 2500 and 100. So same thing. One is just a slightly brighter white than the other one. So I picked up a couple of skeins, and I do have a project that I'm planning on using the 2500 in, and then I figured I've got a couple of things coming up where I can try the Cosmo Floss in the 100 and just see how I like it. So stay tuned for later to see how I like that. And then, not that this is not something I'm going to use in my cross stitch, but I did order a button, a Coronation button. Now it's a big button, so this is not going. This is not being made into a needle minder. I have seen on Etsy that you can get these in ones that are like 1-inch diameters, which would be great for a needle minder, but they're all coming from England, and the shipping is anywhere from $9 to $18 for anyway, so that wasn't happening. I got this off of Amazon, so free shipping with an Amazon order. So there you go. There's mine. So I can wear it at home while I'm watching the coronation, or it can potentially become part of my what's turning into a royalty display of tea tins. I have been out and I have been looking to see if I can find that King Charles tea tin. I have not yet seen it. I'm not worried about it. I have lots of time. At some point, I'm 100% sure it will show up at a store close to me that I can get that. So, but as I'm back to my wandering through the tea aisles when I'm shopping. Sorry, I feel like my voice is going. It's a nice sunshiny day. It's lemonade. Anyway, and then I have a little bit of Stitchy Kindness. Someone graciously gifted me with this chart. Keepsakes, the store in Cincinnati, Ohio, who puts on StitchCon, which is coming up quite rapidly. I'm not attending StitchCon this year. But it was, if you have the opportunity, it's a really great thing to go to. But Keepsakes is celebrating their 25th anniversary. I want to say 25. I was going to say 20, 25. I think it's 25. And they are having a series of exclusive charts done for them. And I'd made a comment somewhere along the line to someone that I really liked this particular one, and they very graciously gifted it to me. So I have from Rosewood Manor the Lebanon House Sampler, which is in honor of 25. It's on the back. I should have known that. So it says on the back, I was asked to create a sampler for Keepsakes, a lovely needlework shop in Ohio, to celebrate their 25 years in business. Congrats. Using a photo of their early 1900s house/shop and gathering information about the beautiful garden spot, this is what I created. So that's what it looks like. The words are all done in black, which you know I'm going to change that to a blue. But in case you're having a hard time reading it on screen, it says, kind hearts are the gardens, kind thoughts are the roots, kind words are the flowers, kind deeds are the fruits. Take care of your garden and keep out the weeds, fill it with sunshine, kind words and kind deeds. So yes, it also, as with all of the Rosewood Manor ones, there's always other things in there, so they also have this welcome to my garden, and feel like, no, that was it. I felt like there was one other thing in here, but anyway. So thank you for this. This is lovely. I now need to figure out how this fits into my stitching plan. Okay, Stashquisitions. Okay, let's talk announcements. Okay, I have the library booked for our May stitching at the library. I've got to get the email out to the group this week, but if you're in the greater Calgary area for whatever reason, we are having it on, as soon as I said that, I'm sure it's May the 20th. Yes, May the 20th, which is the Saturday of the May long weekend. So if you have May long weekend plans, I'm sorry, this isn't going to be the weekend for you. If you're from out of town and are happening to be in the Calgary area on that Saturday, you are more than welcome to stop in, even if it's just for 15 minutes to stop in and see what everybody's working on and introduce yourself. We would love to see you. So I have it booked for the Signal Hill Library from 9:30 to 12:30 on Saturday, May the 20th. If you're in the regular group, I should be getting an email out to you this week with that. Yes, it is the Saturday of the long weekend. It is the only date I could get in May that was more than 2 hours. No, 1.5. That was my problem. I was looking at one other weekend and I could only get it for 90 minutes. And I feel like that's just not enough for stitchers. We need more time than that. But I did keep looking back to see at some of the previous weekends to see if, because there was one weekend where I was having to wait for another week to come by because it was all booked up. And I went back and looked at a previous one that I'd already checked out and someone had adjusted their booking. So I kept going back and checking on some of the other weekends, and May 20th is it. That's all I could get. It sounds really horrible, but I'm really hoping that, once we get into June, that some of the programming on Saturdays comes off so that I've got a little more flexibility. I would like to get some afternoon slots booked in there. So I'm still working on that. And as usual, I haven't had my conversation because I do want to talk to the people at the library about some options about getting it scheduled on a regular basis, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so that's the May stitching at the library, Saturday, May the 20th, 9:30 to 12:30 at the Signal Hill Library. All of those details are in the notes section down below as well. Also, just a quick reminder, again, if you're in the greater Calgary area, that the Ujamagramma's Fabric and Yarn Sale is coming up this next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm going on Friday. I have my ticket for the 11 o'clock slot so I can get in there bright and early. I want to say, I think for each of the slots, there's tickets for like 150. So it's not like it's me and like 10 people. Me and 150 people have tickets to get in at the 11 o'clock slot. So come back next week and see how I make out, see what I come out with. I was gonna say, Yeah, it'll be interesting. It was fun. It was interesting dropping stuff off because there's a huge lineup when I got there, and had to wait in line for a bit. I was totally okay with that. But like everybody, like carloads and trunk loads, and like the lady ahead of me, like her whole trunk was full, as was mine. My car was full. My trunk was full. My back seat was full. And when I got up to the very front, because they had me sort of pull around and pull way up to the front, I opened my stuff and they said, this, and I'm like, and the back seat. And so they brought out this lovely trolley, and so I had a trolley full of stuff. Sort of when I pulled up a little bit closer, I did sort of open up the trunk and had unloaded a couple of garbage bags full of stuff already that I'd piled up with some other stuff that people were piling outside. So anyway, it was very interesting seeing. It's been a while since I've done the drop off for Grandma Ujamas. It was really interesting. I can't wait to see what's in everybody's bags and bins and boxes and all that kind of stuff. It'll be fascinating to see what I find. Check back next week and see what I get out of that one. Okay, let's talk about plans, cross-stitching plans, before we get into the non-cross-stitching related stuff, because not everybody cares about my crocheting, which is totally fine. So welcome to May. We're actually, because I'm recording this on Monday, it is May the 1st. Welcome to May. It's May the 1st. So my plan, while I'm getting this going, is I'm going to start my mania plans that we talked about last week. I'm going to start working on my April's Blue Diamond by Mirabilia. And then tomorrow on Tuesday, I'm going to start my May Quaker and see if I can't get that knocked out in reasonable time. Period. We'll see how it goes. I do have it handy here. So this is what it's going to look like. I'm feeling better about the color choices. I was just looking, what have I got? I can just do it on the back of this. I'm feeling better about the color choices for May, that I don't need to adjust them. So these are the May colors. I think those are fine for my purposes. So we'll get that going. We'll see how long that takes. I did not check in my Markup RXP to see how many stitches are in that in totality. But that is my plan. Certainly over the course of the next week, the focuses are on the May Quaker and my Mirabilia April's Blue Diamond, except for Saturday. Because Saturday, of course, is the coronation of King Charles III, where I'm going to do my Coronation SAL, which I am stitching this design from Etsy. This is from Cosford Rise Stitchery. So I have purchased it. I have downloaded it. I've got it set up in Markup RXP. What I need to do between now and Saturday is pull the threads and get my fabric set up for it. So I've got a couple things left to go, but I've at least got the chart. That's helpful. Got the chart. I've got it loaded up into Markup RXP. It's ready to go, and I just need to get my threads. Now it's me. I'm not necessarily going to entirely follow the chart exactly as it says. I might be having to change a couple of things, so stay tuned for next week and see how that goes. But that hashtag is hashtag Coronation SAL. So if you're stitching anything in commemoration of the coronation, or if you're not necessarily celebrating the coronation, if you want to join in, stitch on anything that makes you think regal or royal or whatever it is. There are lots of things in the stitchy world that can apply to that, and would love to see that. It's a reminder I do need to do a post on Instagram of my stuff going, no, really, here's getting ready for the Coronation SAL. At least now I have a prop to post with it. So hopefully this week I will get my act together and I can post that on Instagram. All right. That's my plans, certainly for the next week. Those 3 pieces, and then of course on Sunday, after I finish filming next Sundays, let's hopefully get back to a normal schedule again. I will be working on my new ABC that Sunday night. So you probably won't see that until 2 videos from now, but at least I'm getting it ready. All right, so the topic for this week is let's do April in review. So it was interesting pulling the numbers together, because I will say when I look at April compared to the 3 previous months, April was not a good month for me. It was not a good stitchy month for me. So here are my numbers. I worked on a total of 8 projects over the course of the month, which is about average for me. Yeah, I would say that's the average. Yeah, right. 8 is about average for me. I had 3 finishes. So I finished my March Quaker. I finished my Spring Bell Pull by Stony Creek, my Lent project. And I finished the Little House Needleworks Spring ABCs. So that was 3 finishes this month, which was great, because last month I had no finishes. 2 starts and 0 finishes. This month I have 3 finishes and only 1 start, which is not how this was supposed to look. I was actually supposed to have another start. It didn't happen at all because that dratted April Quaker didn't get finished. So I only had 1 start, which was the April Quaker of the month, which was not finished in April. And the total number of stitches I had was 6,977. And if you aren't thinking that I looked at that number after I added everything up and went, if you'd only stitched 23 more stitches, you would have had 7,000. But even then, this is the least amount of stitches I've had in a month all year. So January, I had, like 8,500 stitches. February, I had 8,800 stitches. March, I had 8,200 stitches. The fact that I didn't even break 7,000, this was not a good stitchy month. And I was kind of looking at it going like, so where did I lose all my stuff? And okay, part of it is there were a couple of days where I didn't do any stitching because I was dealing with plumbing stuff. But, I did crocheting in March too. Anyway, I don't know what happened there, but it just did not turn into a very stitchy month. So I need to improve. So I need to improve in May, and I need to make sure I get back to my numbers. I have decided that while I will not be tracking like the number of stitches I'm doing while I'm crocheting, I am going to track when I am crocheting. So I do think, it's interesting because I had done a bunch of crocheting in March and I was worried it was going to impact how many stitches I got in it, and it was okay. It didn't really impact it. Now I acknowledge I did more crocheting in April, Cheryl, which clearly has impacted my stitching. So I need to do a little bit of monitoring around that. And then also acknowledging that, as we get into some better weather, there are things on the weekend where, in the winter, it's totally fine to spend your Saturday at home stitching in the afternoon and not doing anything. But if it's summer and the weather is lovely, I'm probably not stitching then. So it will be very interesting to see what those numbers look like as we go through the summer months and see what happens with my stitching. see what happens. And I've already got a carryover project that I will need to fit into the plan later this year to make sure it gets accomplished. So we'll see how that fits into things as well. So it was an okay month. I'm not feeling great about the month because I really am disappointed. I really wanted to get the April Quaker done. I'm really disappointed. So I had an April project kitted up as part of my 5-year plan that I was going to start in April, and that did not get started. And I'm quite disappointed about that. I really did want to work on it. So we'll see how things go over the rest of the year. You just never know where I may work it into the plan. We'll see how things go. But so overall I would say I am disappointed in my April. So I do need to make sure that I'm, again, I added up the numbers and went, well, that did not turn out into a really, it's like, where did I lose, 1,300, well, yeah, there you go, 1,300 stitches. That's, if I finished the April Quaker, that's 1,000 of that, right? So it's really, there it is right there. Maybe it was the fuss budgeting. We'll have to see. Check back next month. Trying not to sneeze. Check back next month and we'll see how I do on those numbers. But that's what I got accomplished in April. I know it's May the 1st. That's what I got accomplished in April. So far, my worst stitching month of the year. So not necessarily something to write home about. Yeah, I'm just looking at all the stuff going, where do I stick my planner now that it can't stay where it was? All right. With that, that's all of the cross-stitching related stuff. Everything else here is going to be crochet related, or I have a couple of random stories from the life of Judy in case you're interested, which will of course be at the very end. All right, let's talk crocheting. I did get a couple of rounds into my great big giant. I'm not going to enjoy this planner here. It has to go somewhere else. All right. I did get a couple more couple more rounds. Let's do it this way just because you can see the white. There we go. It's curling up on itself. So the last time you saw it was this level of white. So I got one round of each of the 3 colors into my great big square. The nice thing with it being squares, it makes it really easy to assess when you're going to be done. So I've decided it's probably at least 1 more round of each of the 3 colors, maybe 2, and then this one is done because this is just going to be a nice small one. This one is going to need to be blocked to make sure it's all nice and lovely, but we'll deal with that once it gets finished. So did a couple of rounds on that. The one that got the majority of the time was what's going to be the plaid poncho. So it's, anyway, I can never remember where you saw it last, but the answer is I have now completed this entire side. It's complete. Now, when I started off on the other side, I was counting sort of, at the end of every color, just making sure, because there's supposed to be 65 stitches across each of these. And, so I counted at the end of every color, and it was always fine. Of course, because I was doing this while I was dealing with plumbing issues, I didn't do that. And quite frankly, I'd never had an issue. So I got to the end, finished this last gray section, and counted up and went, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. Wait, you probably just miscounted. Came back counted. Nope, I dropped a stitch. Now, the funny thing was, all I had to do was hold it up, and I spotted where I had gone wrong, where I dropped it, because it's the one where he's like, it's a bit of a dent there. But I had to rip it all the way back to this gray and re-crochet the navy, the gray, the white, and the gray again. Sorry, I was just looking, going, yeah, sorry. That middle block there looked like it was like one row too many, and it's not. Yes, everything's fine. Sorry. So when you look at things in the camera, you're like, wait a minute, no, it's fine, everything's good. And it's the right number of stitches across. So that was a little bit of a detour, but since I was crocheting in the land of plumbing issues, I was okay with it, because I was really annoyed with myself, but I ripped it out and I recrocheted the whole thing. Now it is ready for the weaving, which I'm not planning on doing anytime soon. April was not a great stitchy month from a cross-stitching perspective, so I need to make sure May is strong so that we're back on track. There will also be distractions in May with, you know, yard work and doing things outside and all that kind of stuff. So you're probably not going to see this one for a while, because I just need to get a few things done before I can sit down and start doing all of the weaving things that need to happen on that. I say that now. I think that's my plan. And, you know, I can finish off my my big granny square lap ganish thing that I'm working on, and that'll be fine. As I've said, I'm only planning on having 2 on the go at a time, so then at that point I really will need to do something. I said last week that I had some Stashquisitions from a crocheting perspective that I also forgot to pull out and show, and I've added one more thing this week to add into that. So the one from last week was, I was in Walmart, and so last week, while I was finally getting things done on this video and notes and all that kind of stuff, one of the things that I do while things are happening behind the scenes is I'm trying to do some cleanup on my files on my computer. And as I said to you, when I fell down the crochet rabbit hole, Cheryl, I downloaded, I feel like 572 free charts, patterns that I had found. Now, I know a lot more now than I did when I was downloading them, so I discovered the way I had named them and categorized them while I was downloading them was not the way I should. So I'm changing that slowly over time. And so one of the files that I renamed and put into a name format that works better for me. So I had this top of mind. I was in Walmart and was running through the yarn section and went, hey, wait a minute. That's the yarn that's called for in this pattern that I know that I've downloaded. So the pattern I have for it is for a shawl. So this is Red Heart Roll With It sparkle yarn in this colorway, which is Amethyst. And so I got 2 balls of this and 1 ball of diamonds. Now these go together the way they've designed the pattern. You need 2 of these, 1 of these. When I was in Walmart, that's exactly what they had. They had 2 of these and 1 of these in the Walmart I was in, and I went, well, apparently it was meant to be, and so these came home. Now, when this gets worked into, you know, the crocheting plan is anybody's guess, but because I literally had just looked at the pattern, I knew exactly what the called for numbers were. And then you know, again, as I was working through the patterns and renaming them, I found this one pattern and I looked at it and I went, oh, I think I know the yarn that would work perfectly for that. So that was great, and I looked at it, and then I, you know, looked at what I had, and I didn't have quite enough. So it was also a Walmart yarn, and so this week I went back and I went to see if they had any, and I was going to deal with it at that point, but they did. So it's great. So I picked up the extra balls that I needed for this one pattern. This is Lion Brand Hometown, and Sleepy Hollow Spirit is the color. And I couldn't help myself. I did a preliminary swatch of this. This is to make a poncho. And I just looked at this and I went, oh my goodness, I think it's going to be amazing. So I got those. So this is probably so I'm not starting another project until one of the other two get completed. And I like having the combination of a poncho and a blanket. So I probably won't start this until I get the weaving done in that blanket, but the weaving done in the blanket, the weaving done on the poncho, because I will need that poncho to be completed before I give myself permission to start on my next poncho. Now it's a little bit laughable because this is a heavier weight yarn. So it should be a very warm poncho, which you know will be lovely for me for fall/winter. And I'm not sure about crocheting that in the summer. So it may make for more stitching time because it will just be too warm to crochet. So we'll see how it goes. But this is probably going to be the next poncho you see. I think it will be lovely. Lovely, lovely. I just keep looking at this yarn going like, won't it be lovely? All right. And I was just looking down. Oh, yeah. So there's that. And then the other thing I picked up, again, because somebody mentioned this to me about Tunisian crocheting. And so, you know, not surprisingly, I've watched a few YouTube videos. So I decided I should probably look for that. I know the Fabric and Yarn Sale is coming, and who knows what I could find there. I was looking on Amazon. I was looking on Etsy. You know, had looked at, so the YouTubers that I watched their channels, they did have some link to some Tunisian crochet hooks, which were no longer available or really expensive. So while I was at Walmart getting the blue yarn, I strolled past their crochet hook section, and they actually had some Tunisian hooks complete with the wires. Now, I wouldn't say that this is like your best brand ever, blah, 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 but I don't really know what my plans are for that. It was $5 Canadian. I was like, I was totally willing to spend the $5 and go, we'll see if I ever do any of this, but at least I've got something. I also stood there, looked there, and went, do I know exactly what a hook size I need for this? Probably not, but anyway, I've got one, and we'll deal with it when it comes up. But I laughed because I bought it, and I was like, $5, it gives me something to practice with. All right, the funny crochet story for this week is I had seen something online that was available at Michael's. And so, well, I was out visiting my parents this week. We'll talk about that. Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute. That's one of the random stories. So while I was out visiting my parents, I stopped at Michael's on my way home because I just wanted to look at this item in person, and they did have it at the Michael's that was closest to me. So I stopped in at Michael's, looked at the thing, decided it wasn't for me, so it was totally fine. And as one does, now that Cheryl has had this big impact on my life, you know, I decided I needed to wander through the yarn section while I was there. because the last time I'd been there and wandered through the yarn section, it was quite depleted. So it still is quite depleted. So I don't know what the plans are going on for what's happening with yarn at Michael's, but anyway, there was quite a few empty things. But I passed by this young woman who was there with her boyfriend, partner, anyway, whatever. They were standing in the aisle and she was looking very befuddled at the crochet hooks. And I couldn't help myself. So I just looked at her and said, you know, do you know what the weight of your yarn is? And she didn't. And so we had this little conversation about hooks and things and what she had and et cetera, et cetera. So she had something in her hand. I said, right, well, it you know, you're going in the right direction, right? She's buying a hook set that had bigger sizes than what she had at home. She had a thicker yarn, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, so she's not necessarily following patterns. She's making stuff up, which is great. Anyway, so we had a lovely little conversation, and I sort of said, well, and don't forget to make sure you use your coupon, because that, you know, since she's buying this set of crochet hooks, it'll probably be your most expensive individual item, so your coupon will apply to that. And she looked at me, she said, there's coupons? And I was like, you don't know about Michael's coupons? She's like, there's a coupon? And I was like, yes. So I explained to her how to find the coupon and the words of wisdom, which is never shop at Michael's without a coupon. There is always a coupon. Yes, it's usually only for one item, you know, but, you know, make sure you're getting your coupon. So I told her how to get it, and et cetera, et cetera. So she was very grateful for that, you know, and I wandered off and continued looking at yarn. And then, of course, as I wandered down one aisle, I was looking at some thicker, heavier weight yarns, and I was like, and of course, since you're in a store that has yarn, so I took this ball of yarn back to her and said, and you can also just wander around the aisles, find a yarn that you think is about the size of yarn that you're trying to do it, and see if it fits comfortably on the hooks that you've got. Don't get all the way home and discover this isn't the right hook either. You've got lots of yarn in this shop, and whether it's the right brand or whatever, you've got the ability to sort of see what the weight of the yarn is and whether you're comfortable with how it's fitting onto your hook before you even get to the checkout. She's like, oh yeah, no, that's a really good tip. She's like, thanks so much. Anyway, so we had this lovely conversation. I'm like I'm the crochet expert anyway, which I'm not, but anyway, it was a very funny conversation to have in the middle of Michael's. All right. That's the end of Crocheting Land. We are now into the last couple of stories from the Land of Judy, which some of you may care about, some of you may not. So I laughed. I was out shopping on the weekend, and I was running through this one store. I was at a specific mall, and at the malls I have specific spots where I like to park. So I parked in my usual spot, and I have to cut through this one store to get to the rest of the mall. And I never shop in the store, so I was really just literally running through the thing and, you know, sort of reached out. They had a sale rack of men's shirts, and I sort of looked at them and went, oh, and because plaid type shirts, and I was just like, you know, I was expecting it to be flannel things. It was on clearance. I was expecting something very specific, and went, you know, ran my hand across them and went, wait a minute, and backed up. And looked at this shirt and went, oh, I think this would be good for my dad for Christmas. But it's on clearance. Christmas is a long way away. You know, we will be well over any return date if he doesn't like it by the time we get to Christmas. So I did what the approach that I have been taking with my parents is, so I sent a picture of it to my mom and said, do you think this would be good for Dad for Christmas? And she said, yes, I think so. And then she said, do you want me to ask him? Because he had been out mountain climbing on Saturday. So he and my younger brother, they do the full-on mountain climbing thing, like ropes and carabiners, and like they need all the equipment. Anyway, whatever. We think they're crazy, but as long as they enjoy it and they do it safely, good for them. I have another hobby and I like my hobby better than their hobby, but they would say the same thing on their end. They like their hobby better than mine, which is great. Anyway, they were already back from their climb, and so she just straight up showed it to Dad and said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Oh yeah." And so we agreed that I would buy it and I would come over and get Dad to try it on. So I'm doing Christmas shopping. It's not going to be a big surprise at this stage of the game, you know. So he's not surprised come Christmas. He's totally fine. I did that with my mother last Christmas. I'd found her a sweater and said, I need you to try it on now, because if it doesn't fit. Anyway, so I took it over. Dad tried it on, just in case you're wondering. So it's this. It's a nice, you know, navy and gray gingham plaid. But the thing is, it's soft. It's like a really thick t-shirty material, which that's the part even my dad said, ooh, that's nice. He likes very soft textured things. So I thought it would be nice to get him this. Anyway, so he tried it on. He's all very happy. So he knows he's getting it for Christmas. So that was the thing I stopped off at my parents' to have my dad try on before I stopped off at Michael's. And then the other thing, random story, is so what I'm wearing right now. So this is a new dress in the wardrobe. And I was talking to a friend, you know, randomly over the past couple of weeks. I've had this for a couple of weeks now. I was thinking to myself, you have a pair of shoes I think are the same color. So the answer is, I have a color palette that appeals to me, which if you've watched me for any amount of time, you probably know that. And this shows you, this is going to show you how well my color palette is ingrained in me. So I bought this within the last couple of weeks. Here's a pair of shoes that I bought at Zara. Now these are a couple of years old. I bought them 2 years ago. And while I'm holding it here and on camera, you can clearly tell the difference. In real life, they're actually very similar. And certainly by the time this goes on my feet. So I just had that chuckle where I said, I think you've actually got like coordinating heels in the house that go with your new dress. Anyway, so if you too may have a color palette that sticks out for you, but I just thought that was really funny, going, oh yeah, how ingrained is it for the greens that appeal to me, is that I have 2-year-old shoes that are also pretty much the same color, which go with several other things anyway. Okay, that's the last random story I have for you. That's all I've got for you. So this is going to get started. The process is going to get started late, so we'll see what time it actually ends up getting up. But with that, I hope everybody's had a really good week. As always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine. So I hope you are staying safe. Safety first, safety first, safety first, as we're getting into spring cleanup things and equipment is coming out. There are some interesting stories that are coming to the forefront as people are telling tales. So safety first. Watch those ladders, watch the equipment, watch the things with motors. Let's be safe. Safety first. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. And I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.